Hey everybody, it's the first week of the new year 2017. I'm Dustin Southworth, and this is the 17th episode of the Watchful Penguin. Thanks for tuning in. Now, I know it's been a while since we've done a podcast. I've done a podcast. Anybody's done a podcast for the Watchful Penguin. So I just wanted to say I want to get back into this. This is a new year. Gonna start over and try getting back into a routine, trying to make this better. For one, I am not going to be doing live anymore because my internet sucks and I know that and should know that, so I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to be doing pre-recorded podcasts and videos, and then we'll throw that up on iTunes and YouTube. So I also want to I don't want to change the format too much on the podcast, but I do want to focus a little more. I want to focus on video games. That's kind of what I've always been interested in and what I've kind of wanted the website to be. It's still going to cover some other things, music if we get into it, and movies and everything, depending on the time of year and what's out now, what we've seen recently. So I just want to... We'll still do all that stuff, but for now I'm going to focus more on video games, which kind of leads me into my next segment, I guess. I'm going to look back on the games that I played in 2016. A lot of them more recently, but I do have a good list of games I played throughout the year, and I'll talk a little bit about each one briefly, but I'll still cover each one a little bit in depth, the kind of focus of it. So I guess I'll just get started right off. So the first game I really, really liked, though, my top game probably of the year, one that I put a lot of time into and downloaded the soundtrack and wallpapers and all kinds of stuff, was Firewatch. I had been hearing about this game for a few months before it came out. They kind of talked about it a little bit before that, but I really started hearing about it and getting excited about it right before it came out. Firewatch it's got a really cool art style. It's not realistic, of course. It's not, it's a highly stylized artwork that they put into this game. And you are this guy who his life starts going bad things start to happen to him. So he just wants to get away from it all. So he volunteers to be a Firewatch out in Wyoming. Can't remember which forest it is that he's watching over, but then so you're the Firewatch in this remote tower, and this other Firewatch is kind of the leader. She starts talking to you, and you kind of build a relationship with her, and then you start going out and exploring the area, and things start happening in the area, so you got to figure out what's going on. And it's really cool game. A lot of people didn't like the ending because it's not exactly what you expected, what they kind of lead up to. It doesn't happen exactly how you think it's going to. So a lot of people were disappointed. I, for one, was not. I thought it was a really good ending, and it kind of, it makes sense. It's I don't know. I enjoyed the ending. I'm not going to spoil it. I highly recommend playing it. It took me probably 3.5-4 hours to play the game, so it's not a long game, not a huge time sink or anything. So you can play it real quick if you want to. I highly suggest it. Alright, next on my list, I played quite a bit of The Division. Tom Clancy's The Division came out this year. It's a really fun game. They had pretty good cover mechanics. There were some hiccups with the game because it's online, and you can play it single player, but I highly recommend you don't. If you're gonna play it, get a group of friends together, play the game. There's a lot of multiplayer PvP stuff to do. It's kind of like Destiny. It's a first-person shooter MMO. you've got the regular machine guns and everything, and assault rifles and snipers, but you are, I mean, it's an MMO. You're going and doing either missions, or you're going against other people in this special zone in the middle, and there's a lot to do. Kinda. I mean, there are a lot of little things on the map, but they don't vary it up. I didn't feel like they varied it up a lot. It kind of, I don't know, I got a little bored with it, and the rankings, the rank up was difficult at a certain point. I don't know if I went in the wrong direction or what happened there, but for some reason I got to a level where I couldn't do anything. I couldn't beat him. And I mean, some of that probably was because I was trying to do it on my own. I don't have a regular group that plays those kind of games. I was playing it on PS4, so it was kind of tough for me because I was just playing by myself. Makes it a little harder. I don't know, but it was still fun. I did have a good time. I think if I had a group to play with, it would be a lot more fun. Well, moving on from that, I played a little bit of Stellaris. I probably played 10 hours. It's a difficult game. If you like Civilization games, Civ 6, Civ 5, are games I've played. It's kind of like that, set in space. You start out on one planet, and you have to build your empire and expand from there. Some of the things they did or changed made it a little difficult, so if I didn't build fast enough, somebody could completely surround me and lock me out. So I would be stuck in my little corner of the galaxy, and there would be nothing I could do because I just didn't build fast enough, and they shut their borders down to me. They wouldn't let me cross their border and get out. And that is kind of the problem with those kind of games too. What's it called? The diplomacy section is not balanced right, or I don't know. The AI seems to always be really aggressive, and they don't really like to trade with you. And even if you try to follow the online tutorials and stuff, sometimes they just won't do whatever you need them to, and they won't open your borders no matter what. I had a lot of problems with that. And I mean, maybe that was just my playstyle is wrong. I don't know, but it was very difficult to get anything done if I didn't build out fast enough. It kind of made you feel like you were spreading out really thin and didn't really get good lock down your borders and lock down your central areas as much, because you had to expand fast enough so you didn't get locked into one place, but then also you needed resources and all kinds of stuff to keep up your civilization. So I don't know, I did like it. There were just a few things that I would have liked to have seen from them. Okay, moving on. Uncharted 4, the final installment of the Nathan Drake story, came out this year on PS4. It was Uncharted. I mean, it was very highly the same game that you've played. Not the same game. I don't want to say that. That there were a lot of the things that you would expect from an Uncharted game, but it looked really beautiful, and I took a ton of screenshots just because it looked so cool, and they had different filters that you could put on, like vintage and all kinds of jungle and high saturation and all kinds of stuff that you could do with the camera in Uncharted 4. You could pause the game and go into this camera mode. It was really fun doing that. I really liked it, but the game itself was fun too. I'll be honest, I haven't beat the game yet. I kind of put it to the side a little bit, but I did have a lot of fun with it. I mean, again, it's an Uncharted game. If you like Uncharted, you're gonna love Uncharted 4. And like I said, it is the final installment of the Nathan Drake series. Who knows what they'll do next, or moving on from that. We'll see in the future. I don't know. I mean, they are focusing on The Last of Us. They announced The Last of Us 2, and they're starting to talk about that a little more. So that's kind of, I'm I mean, obviously that's their focus right now, moving forward into the next couple of years. So we'll see if they do anything with Uncharted, or if that's just the end of it. It was from as far as I got into the game, it was a solid end story, I guess. But I do need to see the ending. That is something I need to get done, and I just need to finish up the game. So yeah, that highly recommended as well. Now to a very controversial game in the gaming world. I mean, probably outside of it, a lot of people haven't heard too much about it, but No Man's Sky. This game has kind of brought out a lot of people who really want to hate on it, and a lot of it is because people got so excited beforehand. And I mean, I was one. I was one of them that got really excited. This game looked cool. The way the guy talked about it sounded awesome. So it's what it is a procedurally generated galaxy. There's 18 quintillion stars, I think is what he said, that the world generation was going to create in this galaxy, and the creator kind of overpromised. He kind of shot the moon and didn't make it. He said there was going to be all this stuff you're going to be able to do. You're going to be able to recruit aliens and do all this other stuff and fly big spaceships and fight and all this stuff, but it never really came true. There were limited things that you could do in that regard. You could fight smaller pirate ships, and I don't know. There were a lot of things to do, but at the same time, it all kind of looked the same. There wasn't a ton to do. It was basically you gather enough resources, you jump in your ship, and you head off. And there wasn't really any reason to stay on certain planets that you found. Even if they were really cool, there wasn't a point to stay there. I mean, it was just you would explore the same 4 things over and over again at first. Then they came out with an update just a couple months ago that I don't want to say it changed the whole game, but it did add a lot to it. It added base building. So now you can stay on a planet, you can claim... they do have bases that are predetermined where you can build, so you have to go find this specific habitat ring on a planet, and you can go in and then you can build off of that hub that they have already placed. I'm not 100% sure if you can delete that main hub and then start over, but I know you can build off of that, and there are a bunch of different terminals that you can get that do different things. So you have to hire alien races now to come man your terminals, and then they'll give you missions. So they'll tell you, okay, go find this plant. I need this plant to do this other thing. So you have to go either find it on the planet that you're on, find it in the solar system that you're in, or find it in one of the solar systems around you, and then come back. Well, the coming back, they did make it actually pretty easy. So all you have to do is go to one of the star bases, and there is a warp tunnel that you can jump into, and it'll take you right back to your base. Once you're at your base, you can jump to different systems, to their main spaceports. You can jump back to the last 2 that you were at. 2 or 3, I can't remember exactly, but you'll be able to jump back and forth. So it makes it really easy to go get your resources and then come back with them. And it kind of pulls your ship along with you to the different systems, so you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm out here, but now I don't have a ship. No, it's just in the landing pad. So I like what they did with the update. I think it's on the right track to get to what they promised. I wasn't terribly concerned with them over promising. But I only played, I don't know, 15, 20 hours of the game because there wasn't that much to do. So it did get me back into it. That update, I immediately downloaded and started playing. So it's on the right track. I'm interested to see what they're going to do next, because they did say that was just the foundation update is what they called it. So it's a foundation for more to come. So we'll see what new updates they add to that to make it an even better game. And I'm excited. I love the world. I love what they've done, but they just need to do a little more with it. So I'm interested to see what they do. And I do recommend that game to people if you just want to go explore. You can be on a planet, explore, jump in your ship, go to the next planet, the planet that you can see in the sky. You can jump up there, go to that planet, and explore that planet as well. And then there's spaceports and freighters and all kinds of stuff that you can see as well. So I highly recommend No Man's Sky. Alright, now my friends, my group of PC players that I run around with a lot, kind of talk me into different games, or we talk each other into different games that we want to play and that we need a group to play. Life is Feudal is one of them. One of our guys was really into it, and he kept trying to talk everybody into it, and we finally did all buy it. It's sort of like Minecraft, where you're building, but then, well, yeah, you can't even dig down into you can create a mine and everything, and then you search for resources, and you build up you can build up a castle, and you have to put resources into a monument to keep up your castle. Otherwise it'll degrade and people can take over your castle, so you got to keep up with it. And it's set in the medieval times, so you're training horses and you're working up your sword skills. There's a whole progression level. We're talking about making an MMO making it into an MMO where you'll get experience levels and fight other people and all that stuff. But for now, it's just in this mode where you're just building and collecting resources. The one problem I had with it was that because it's an alpha, and this isn't a problem, but because it's an alpha, every once in a while, every time they had a major update to the game, they would wipe the servers. So unless you stayed back at that older level where you didn't get the update. But for the most part, everybody updated, and it would just wipe out all the progress you made. So you made this really cool castle, you built it up, and now it's just gone, just because. Which that group just started playing another game that's very similar to that in Rust. Rust is a very similar game where you're gathering resources, building castles and walls and all kinds of stuff. And it still seems to be set in kind of a medieval style, but then you also have assault rifles and snipers and rocket launchers and C4. So it's kind of an odd mix, but it is a really cool looking game, really fun game for a while. It's kind of similar in the fact that you build up your castle, and then depending on the server, once a month or once a week, they will wipe the whole server. And this one, in Life is Feudal, it is not. It's one map that you get that it always looks the same. In Rust, it's procedurally generated as well. There are a few things that are always on a map. So there are different, like there's an airport in a little town, and now they added a harbor. And those are always on the map. They're never in the same place. They're always in a slightly different place. But they are where you go and get your resources, or the rare resources, because everybody knows all those items are there, so they're going to be watching them, and I mean they can kill you when you run in there and try to get your special resources or whatever. So best to do that at like 3 in the morning when hardly anybody's on. You can run in there with no problem because nobody's going to be watching the places because nobody's online. It's a fun game, again, for a while, and then it just kind of, I don't know, there's not a ton to do once you're done gathering resources and building a cool castle. There's not a whole lot to do. Then it turns into raiding and taking out other people's castles, which, I mean, that part's not for me. I don't love destroying what other people have built. I mean, I just want to see cool buildings and stuff, but and I understand. I mean, that's kind of what you got to do, or kind of what those games turn into, or and I mean that's why you have rocket launchers in C4. So I guess I like the building aspect of it, but I don't necessarily like the raiding aspect or the going and killing a bunch of people. But to each their own, and it's a very popular game, and the developer recently told people to stop playing it if you don't like it, because there are a ton of comments on Reddit. They have a whole subreddit about it, and people just complaining about different aspects of the game. People loving it and hating it, but people hating it a lot and complaining about certain things, even though the developer is working on it. It's I believe it's still in alpha as well, so it's not a full-fledged game either, so he's still working on it. He's got to get there. Well, one of the major games of the year, one of the big games that came out that I've been playing, Battlefield 1, a reimagining, going back to World War One. It's no longer the future fighting games that we've come to expect, I guess, I should say, in Call of Duty, and even Battlefield to an extent was a little slightly futuristic, but yeah, they went all the way back to World War One. There's biplanes, there's not very many scopes, which makes me suck at the game because I can't see very well, so I need those scopes, but it's really fun. They really brought it back. They brought the destruction back. I mean, it's just a fun change of pace from what everybody's been doing lately. So I'm excited that they took it back, that they didn't think they had to keep going with the future style. So it's different. That's the biggest thing. I mean, they're taking it back even past what they used to do. They used to be just World War II, so it's interesting to see how they did that, and the operations and the campaign that you do is really cool. The way they do that, they break it up into different segments. You follow a different person or persons sometimes, and one will be focused on tanks, one will be focused on planes, one is infantry, cavalry. It's just really cool how they split it up, and you do like 5 missions in a row, and that's your self-contained story for the campaign. So, and then there's 5 or 6 of those where you're doing you have different objectives or different tools or whatever in the game. It's kind of cool how they did that. Another game that came out recently, a couple months ago, Rainbow Six Siege. I started playing that a little bit. It's I'm trying to think of what game it's like. I mean, it's like a lot of the Rainbow Six games, but it's more focused on characters. So different characters have different abilities, and you're always trying to break into a house. There's 2 teams. The one team that's fortifying the house, they have all kinds of tools that they can put up on the walls to reinforce the walls. They can set up traps, things to shoot the flashbangs down so it doesn't go off. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do with it. It's a cool game. It's fun. Again, not great at it just because I don't know why, but it is fun, and it's one of those games where you go in and you only get one life. So once you're out, and then you just get to sit there and watch the cameras, which can be fun. I mean, you can see when people are sneaking in and when people are hiding around a corner. You can watch that and watch your teammates either run into it or take them out. So that's kind of cool. I'm having fun with it. I need to play it a little more just to kind of earn my guns and everything and rank up and have fun with the game. So yeah, I don't know. I would recommend that. Again, I would say with a couple people would be more fun, just to have a couple teammates to run around with. Now I'm going to switch over to movies, movies that I've seen in the last couple months, I would say. Well, even more recently than that. So a while ago, well, a couple months ago, I watched Star Trek Beyond. It came out at the end of summer or mid-fall. I'm not exactly sure when that came out. So yeah, Star Trek Beyond. I really liked this movie. I was not a big fan of Into Darkness, just because of, I don't know, just the way they did it and used old tropes from Star Trek, but with slight twists. I didn't really love that. I don't know. I think it's lazy, to be honest, and it kind of is putting me off of J.J. Abrams quite a bit. He's kind of been doing this a lot lately, it seems like, where he's taking these old franchises and just slightly twisting the old story to make it new. I'm not a big fan of it. I think his other movies, the ones where he's not doing one of these big franchises, he's pretty creative and has some cool movies. But just these big franchises, I don't know. I'm not happy with it. But anyway, back to Star Trek Beyond. I really loved this movie because, and somebody had brought this up before, a podcast I was listening to, or somebody I was talking to, mentioned that the reason they're not as good is because they don't feel like an episode. And I think Beyond feels like an episode. Some people said it feels like a fan-written movie, or fan-written episode, but I'm okay with that. I think it was cool. I think it really they kind of limited the space. You're not flying from Earth to Vulcan to a whole bunch of places in the movie. They kind of, it's still a ways, but not as quick as some of the other movies have been in episodes. I was thinking about it earlier. It kind of feels like a Deep Space Nine episode where you're going from, they start at the space station and they go to a distant planet and have to deal with the distant planet, and then they come back to the space station and deal with stuff there. That's kind of how I feel about it, but I really liked it. I really liked what they did with this movie. I'm okay with this. I mean, I'd be okay with it if this guy did a couple more movies in the Star Trek universe. I really dug it that much. The director did Fast and the Furious 7, I think. So it is a little more action-packed, but for the most part, like I said, it did feel like an episode of Star Trek. So now moving on to another side of the J.J. Abrams coin. Saw Rogue One, saw it in theaters, saw it in 3D. I didn't know it was going to be in 3D because when I went online, it didn't say that. It just said the time that I went to it. So I went, and I don't know. 3D in theaters is not very good. Especially the theaters I go to are older, and frankly, the one that I went to is probably going to close down pretty soon. I don't know that for a fact, but it's kind of getting run down. Anyway, Rogue One fixed a problem that Star Wars really didn't have. it's one of those things that people have argued about for a long time. Once the internet started, they didn't care about it when the movie first came out. It's fixing something in Star Wars Episode 4 that wasn't a huge deal. Like, it was pretty well explained in that movie, but they had to make a whole backstory, and that's the entire plot of this movie, is filling in that backstory. Which, I don't know. I didn't really need it to fill in that plot hole. It was a very action-packed, very fun movie. Just the plot wasn't that great, and honestly, the characters weren't hugely memorable. And the way they ended it the very, very ending was kind of cool, the way they tied it into Episode 4, because it goes right into Episode 4 from the end of this movie. But it just kind of, I don't know, the whole movie was kind of meaningless. They really didn't need to make this movie. Like I said, it was an interesting movie. I didn't like it as a Star Wars movie. I liked it as just a space action movie. If it was just that, I would have been okay with it. But I'm not a huge fan of it because they tried to tie it into the way they tried to tie it into Star Wars. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but because it would take a one sentence to explain the whole plot of the movie. Yeah. See it, and make up your own mind, but I was not a huge fan of it. I don't know. Just my personal opinion. So those are the movies I've seen recently and had an opinion about. Now I'm going to talk about the other thing I want to kind of focus on is I'm still not sure how to label it. I'm just for now labeling it tech, but it's a little bit customization, a little bit technology, a little bit of I hate to say coding because it's not. It's just kind of tweaking a few settings. But so one of the things I've recently started messing with on my computer, if you remember on Windows 7, they used to have the gadgets on the sidebar, like they would be kind of right on the edge, and it would be like your CPU usage and your RAM usage and like a clock and whatever else. But I did really like that. I liked being able to know that information, know some extra things about my computer and be able to monitor it. So I found this program called Rainmeter. Now, there is a ton you can do with Rainmeter. There are a ton of what they call skins, but they're just the little programs, the little like your clock would be a skin, or the network monitor or CPU monitor would be a skin. So you download all these templates, and then you can put skins in and out, and you can change colors and stuff. I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's really interesting. You do have to, like I said, do have to tweak the settings to get it how you want it to look and how you want it to feel. But there are a lot of things you can do with it. You can make it real minimal. That's kind of what I want my focus to be, is minimal. So I want to, on my laptop at least, I do have it on my desktop. I have like time and CPU usage and stuff on my desktop, and I have a dark theme, and I changed my TeamSpeak to look like it too, so it all kind of works together and looks all the same. But on my laptop, I want to try these launchers. They have launchers where it'll be the icons for like Chrome and a bunch of different things, but you can kind of tie it in more with the other Rainmeter stuff, like the clock and all that stuff. I want to try that on my laptop, just to kind of make it a little more minimal, but also cool looking. I want to, I don't know, see what I can do working with wallpapers. And a lot of these come with wallpapers built in, so you go find, all right, I want my computer to look like this. Well, you can download everything, and it'll load that whole template, so it'll look exactly like what you saw on the website. And pretty much all of the Rainmeter icons and templates and skins are on DeviantArt, which I find pretty interesting because I think of deviant art pretty much as just art, like digitally created art, but which Rainmeter kind of is, I guess. You're changing your background of your computer. You're changing the way it looks to meet your needs, so meet your style. So I guess it is kind of art, and that's why they have it on DeviantArt. But even I've looked at different Rainmeter hubs and stuff, and it all links back to DeviantArt, which I kind of find cool. But so I would recommend just going to DeviantArt and searching for whatever you need. If you're going to run Rainmeter, I would highly recommend it. There's so much what you can do with it, make it look different ways, and like I said, blend it in with your wallpaper, so it's kind of, you can change the color scheme and everything of Rainmeter to fit your needs. It's a really cool program. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Like I said, I need to work a little more on my laptop and the looks of that, but that's what I'm working on next. Something I got just a couple days ago is this little guy, and unfortunately it doesn't have a logo or anything on it. It's kind of hard to tell what it is, but it is a Raspberry Pi 3, Model B3. Wait, Raspberry Pi 3 Model B. That's what it is, yes. And what that is a tiny little computer. And I mean, you're not going to run Windows or anything on it, but it'll run different flavors of Linux, different. That's all it is. That's what it looks like. That's it. It's got USB and Ethernet and a few other things that you can plug in there. It plugs in with HDMI, so you run that to your TV or your monitor, computer monitor, or whatever. It runs off of. It's not the exact same voltage as a phone, but it's a micro USB cable that you plug in and run it off of that for power. I bought a little kit for it, so it kind of came with all this stuff. But you don't have to buy the kit. You can just buy the thing itself for $35. It does run off of just a little SD card that you plug in there at the bottom. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's really cool. I've had it for a couple days. I put RetroPie on it, which is it's got a lot of built-in emulators for like Nintendo Entertainment System, N64, PlayStation 1, and I've even been playing some DOS games, which I found a couple that I used to play a lot when I was a kid, and realized how bad I was at video games back then, because there was one game that I used to play a lot and could never beat. I pretty much beat it in one night, like not even one night. I beat it in 45 minutes, I think, the whole game. So that's pretty interesting to go back and play those old games, like the ones that I played. That game specifically was Jill of the Jungle, which you had this blonde chick that you would just run through, and you'd turn into a butterfly or a frog to get to different levels. It's a platforming game, but I don't know. It was interesting to see that game again, because it's been so long since I played that. But I'm playing it on my big screen TV by plugging it into the Raspberry Pi, and I can have my PS3 controller and control it all. With that game, I used a keyboard, but yeah, you can plug all kinds of controllers in. You can play all kinds of games. I downloaded a whole bunch of Nintendo 64 games. A question one of my friends had last night about it was, is the website you get your games from, is it really sketchy, or is it kind of cool, or is it okay? I've heard of this a long time ago. I was looking at ROMs and emulators and stuff, and I found this one called EMU Paradise, Emulator Paradise is what it stands for. That's one of the ones I go to, and I mean, I've always had good luck. I've never had a problem with actually downloading the files. I also found another one called coolroms.com, which is just a cool rhyming name. I love that, coolroms.com. That's another one that I use, and it seems to be working really well. High quality ROMs. I haven't had any viruses or anything with it. I do scan all of the files just to make sure, but they all come up clean. So those are my two go-to emulator websites that I can download the files, and then I can just... The nice thing about the Raspberry Pi Model B is that it has Wi-Fi, so I can have it turned on in my living room or my room, and I can just transfer all the stuff from this computer, my main desktop, to that without having to get a USB or anything else. I can just pull it up on my desktop and throw the games right in there, restart the Raspberry Pi, and I've got those new games show up right away. Or I can restart the software. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I can already see like all the things that you can do with it. There are a ton of websites of what you can do with a Raspberry Pi. All you have to do is, I mean, like I said, it's the software's running on a micro SD card right there. So you can, I mean, I can have RetroPie on this one. I can go grab another micro SD card and throw something else on there, or try something else. I can have a Linux distribution on there. I can do all kinds of stuff. I can make a smart mirror with the Raspberry Pi running like a web interface, and then put it behind a piece of glass with the coating on it. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff you can do with it. It's a really cool device. $35 for the board, a little more if you want the case and stuff, but it's a really cool thing that I'm gonna play around with a lot more and figure out all the cool things I can do with it. I mean, you can hook sensors up to it and tell it to do all kinds of stuff. It's a really cool little device. Like I said, for $35. Yeah, I'm gonna probably go play some retro video games right after this. So anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. I mean, like I said, it's a new year, trying new things, trying to be more consistent. That's I know we've talked about that in the past, but I really need to focus on that. Like I said, I want to focus more on video games, a little bit of tech, a little bit of movies, and just go from there. Like I don't know. It's gonna be a fun year, I think. I'm gonna try to play a bunch more video games and talk about them with you guys. So I would appreciate if you go on Facebook and like us on there, The Watchful Penguin, facebook.com/The Watchful Penguin. We're on Twitter @Watchful Penguin, Google Plus, The Watchful Penguin. Please subscribe on iTunes. Don't know how many other ways there are to watch or listen to this, but I would appreciate if you subscribed on iTunes. If you have any suggestions of games to play or any of the games that I've talked about, if you know of any good servers to play on, podcast @thewatchfulpenguin.com. I will be trying to do a little more Twitch streaming this year. That is _watchful_penguin on twitch.tv. Again, trying to be more consistent of what I am doing, so I don't want to overload myself, but I do want to do that a little more. I think it'll be fun. And thanks for watching. Thanks for being here and listening to me ramble about all kinds of stuff. So I will see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.